What's up guys, Robert here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I got my subs hooked up in the 2019 Honda CR-V. I did mine with the trim level is the EX, so it's got the touch screen. A lot of people with the normal LX with the non-touch screen choose to upgrade the whole head unit, but there's a lot of functionality like in the car that I wanted to retain that you need the head unit for. So let's get right into it. To complete this job, you're going to need the following tools: a 3/8 ratchet, 14 gauge speaker wire, a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, 12mm socket, 10mm socket, an 8mm socket, a 3mm hex bit socket, cable ties, electrical tape, quick splice connectors, a box cutter, a plastic pry tool, needle nose pliers, Scotch adhesive mounting strips, and wire strippers. So first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the negative terminal on your battery. For this you'll need a 10mm on the 3/8 ratchet. Don't disconnect the intelligent battery monitor, just disconnect the terminal from the battery itself. And then just set it off to the side where it won't make contact with the battery. This may be a bit difficult to see, but you can see this cable right here is going through this grommet. And this grommet you can just pull out to push it out from the inside as well, but I was able to pull most of it out from just in the engine bay here. The razor blade, you're going to want to just cut a little slit, just the tiniest little slit. You don't want anything huge because you don't want water getting into your cabin, but just large enough for your cable to make it through. Alright, so then in the driver's floor area, you're going to see where this grommet comes out. It's in a perfect spot, honestly. I just ran mine over behind all the pedals so it doesn't get caught up, over the steering rack, and then over and into this panel right here. And you could just pop this out pretty easy, like that. Once the cable is behind this, these easily pop up. Just get your fingers under there, pop this whole thing up, and then you can see my cables are run under the carpet, so they're not in the way of these clips, and they're not in the way of the holes where the clips on the back of the trim piece go in either. But just behind the carpet a bit, and then this gets pulled back, also pretty easy, as you can see. And then it is pretty difficult to see in there, but you can see the blue wire gets fed through this, through the backside here, and then up under this panel. This panel takes a bit more of finagling to get out, but eventually it does come out. Make sure you don't lose these clips and make sure they stay in their spots. But these cables, you can see this is my sub-level cable and this is the power cable. The blue one's the power. And this cable gets fed under this panel, and you can pull this seat back and remove these. So this is just being held on by a Phillips head screw. I'll go take that out. So using your flathead, you can just pop up the bottom part of this cover. There's a Phillips screw in there. Just go ahead and remove that. And with that screw removed, you can just pull this out. I just like to keep the screw in there so I don't lose it. And then this piece can pull up. There's another one on that side, but you don't really need to remove it at this current moment. And with this up, you can kind of see down there. It's difficult to see, but you can see the blue power wire and the punch level cable are down there. And then that gets routed under this trunk piece. And it's going to be a bit difficult to show you because these subs are, down on the thing. But this just pulls up, and if you pull it up enough, the whole piece will just come out, which is really nice. And then those cables will come out towards this area, and you can just leave them out of the way because we're done with them for now. So at the same time that you're running the power cable, it's also probably a good idea to run your remote control cable as well. I have mine mounted here because it's nice in an easy position, and I use some of that Scotch mounting tape, and I just put it on here because I don't want to screw into this plastic piece of the dash. And this cable just comes out through here, down under the steering column, and then follows the same exact path as the power cable from the battery. And now is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. To obviously remove this stuff, which is super easy. So basically what you're going to want to do is get both hands under this and just pull gently but firm, and that's going to pop out. There's a connector on the back side, and then a little clip on the bottom. So at the same time as you're barely getting this out, you can scoot a finger in there and clip on the bottom and then just pull the connector straight out. And this can be set off to the side. It may be a bit difficult to see, but I'll try and point it out. There is a 10mm or Phillips head screw on either side. So there's one there, and there's gonna be one here. I've already taken this one out to save a bit of time. You also wanna be very, very, very careful not to drop one of these. Because the odds of you being able to find it again are pretty slim. So be very careful when you're pulling it out, and just set it off to the side where you know where it is. And now, similar situation with this top piece. You're just gonna want to pull from the top, gently but firm, and this should pop out. And then there's about 20 million different connectors on the back of this radio. And the wiring diagram is provided in the description below, but I'll also pop it up on the screen. So I'm going to start with the wiring up at the head unit. So the colors of the wires that you're going to want to choose are a pink, a blue, a red, and a blue. And this is going to be on bottom part towards the right side on the rear side of the connector, so where the wires go in. And you can see them highlighted right here. And this connector is going to be right here on the radio, and you're going to want to splice into those wires. Pink one's going to be your left front positive. The blue one is going to be your left front negative. Red is going to be right front positive. And blue again is going to be right front negative. And then you're going to splice your speaker wire to these wires and then run them back to your LC2i or your line output converter. And obviously keep track of the wires so you know which one you're connecting to the right input on the LC2i. On the power side of the LC2i, you're going to run your remote out wire to the remote in on your amp. You're going to tap into your power wire from your battery on the amp to get 12 volts to the LC2i, and then find a good ground to ground it to. Coming out of the LC2i, you're going to use the base output and run that to the input on the amp. And finally, connect your amp to your subs. My amp, for example, is a 2 ohm amp, 600 watts at 2 ohms. So I have to bridge the connections on the subs in order to get it to be 2 ohms, because both of these subs are 4 ohm subs. And it really is that simple, guys. And then those wires get fed down, down to the right, and then they're going to come out over here through this bottom panel. This panel is super easy to remove as well, so there's like 4 or 5 clips. So using your pry tool, you can just pop in there and get these clips out. So there's one here, here, and there's one over here as well. There you go. And then this panel you have to pull to the back because there's a clip that wedges in going forward. And now with that panel exposed, you can see the speaker wire coming through out there. I used some zip ties and I attached it all going above the glove box area. Similar to the battery cable before, you can pop this panel out and run all of these cables down this way through this, and this is literally the same process as it is on the other side, under the seatbelt cover and then up through this panel. And this is where we're gonna have to remove some screws to pull this seat up. So it's a bit difficult to see, but there's 2 plastic covers, one here and one here, and this is just covering the seat bracket. So you can pull them out, and then there's 2 12mm bolts that hold the seat down. So with those bolts out, I used a bungee cord because it's the easiest way to keep this up while you're working on it, but with those 2 bolts out, you can just lift the seat up, and this is where I have my audio control LC2i mounted. So what I did with the bungee cord is just hooked it around this bottom bracket, wrapped it around the headrest a couple times, and then finally clipped it onto the middle seat. And this just keeps this up and out of the way while you're working down here. So if you are using an LC2i, which I would highly recommend for an application such as this where you want to keep the stock head unit, these are the following connections you're going to have to make. So speaker inputs, you're going to have left positive, left negative, right positive, right negative, and that's going to correspond with whatever the connections you made up there. Keep track of the wires because you're going to need to plug them into the correct input. You're also somehow going to have to get power to this thing. What I did, I used the power, I tapped into the power that's coming into my amp, that big blue cable over there, and used it for the 12 volt in over here. And what's really cool about the LC2i is that it has something called GTO, which is, I think it stands for Great Turn On. It senses your speaker level, and if it has power, it'll sense that and send a remote out, which is this silver wire here, that goes to your amp. So that the amp will only turn on when music is being played, so that the car is off right now. There's no power going to it. And then obviously over here, you've got your subwoofer out. So this is going to be just an RCA cable left and right, and that gets all fed through the same hole that you use to feed the battery cable into the trunk. That panel in the back gets sent up and out through this side. Once you have all your cables in the trunk, you're going to want to connect them up to your amp. Use the drawing on the screen to do all the connections. It's difficult for me to show because this is all mounted in place. So another thing you're going to have to do specifically on the CR-V is disable active noise cancellation, or else your music will be basically unplayable. But there's this little box behind this cover. You're going to have to pull off the weather stripping and pop off this panel here. There's a connector on the back side of it, and the easiest way to get to it is, you know, going up through the glove box. You don't have to take the glove box out, but behind the glove box there's a plastic piece you can pull down and reach your hand up there and just unplug it. You will notice that there is more road noise, but if you want subs, this is the only way to do it. Another thing specifically for LC2i users, you're going to have to set your AccuBase level, and I'm not going to even try to explain it because I'm going to butcher it, but there's plenty of videos, and especially ones that I'll link up in the cards up there, because I can't explain it how I did it, but there's an AccuBase threshold little set screw on the side of the LC2i that you're going to have to adjust. Alright, and back up to the engine bay we come. So, obviously your wire is going to be up here. It may or may not already have a fuse block installed on it. Mine did not, so I had to, you know, splice one in. And instead of running it directly to your battery, because I like having this plastic corrosion protector thing on there, I went to the main fuse box on the car. You can get to this by just popping up these two tabs, and then just follow this cable from the battery. It goes right here, and tap in right there. This way it keeps everything off the battery, and you can just pop this cover back on and it looks like nothing's even there. Last but certainly not least, you're going to want to reconnect your negative terminal on the battery. Go ahead and put that on. Watch out, it might spark. Grab your 10 and tighten that up until it's so tight that you can't remove it. Alright, now we're going to get in the driver's seat, start this up, and get ready for the approximately 1,000,000 error messages all over the place. The car does not like it when you unplug the battery. Clearly it says, alright, door and tailgate open, but it's going to pop up with everything has a problem. And that's totally normal. So it's also going to show you on your radio here. It might take a moment, but it's going to pop up and say the system has lost power. Push and hold the power button for more than 2 seconds. And then it has to reconfigure itself, get all the GPS coordinates, all that. While you're waiting for this to complete, it probably is not a bad idea to go and check that everything has power. So as you can see, the amp is powered as well. And this would not have power if you wired it like I did, connected to the LC2i with the remote. So you know that this is working, you know that the LC2i is working. So now we just have to be patient. Oh, look at that. Already back. So, you can just turn audio power on. However, I would recommend, strongly recommend, going into your settings, going into audio, then click down here by sound, and then make sure you don't have your bass turned up. You want the sound that's coming out of your speakers to be as flat as possible so that the subs actually do their job. And then you're ready to start listening to bass heavy music. And the way to get rid of all these error messages that will pop up if you disconnect the battery on the CR-V, it has to be driven 100 feet in order to reinitialize everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So after a little bit of driving, everything goes away and your car is back for a CRV, and while they are correct, I don't really care. I like bass, so I'm gonna keep the bass going. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it wasn't exactly like a walkthrough. If I would have known that I would started YouTube back again, I would have recorded the entire process, but it's difficult with, you know, one person and trying to do all the work too. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.